This is a season-long podcast in support of the YouTube channel Season Long Baller. Happy to have you with us. Hope you're having a great start to your week, and we'll hop right on into it. Taking a look at what happened to the Wizards last week. Started off on March 14th, of course, on Tuesday against the Detroit Pistons, a 73-51 victory for the Wizards. Then, 3 days later, on the 17th, took on the Cleveland Cavaliers, which that season series had been one apiece, each team winning on their own home floor, with the Cavaliers blowing out the Wizards back in October during the third game of the season. This one goes the way of the Wizards, however, 66-58, and we'll talk about that game a little more in depth in just a moment. And then finally, for the week, the next night on the 18th, Wizards took on the Kings and got the victory there, 77-70. Again, the Kings had defeated the Wizards previously out on the West Coast, 88-80, and we'll talk about that game in just a bit. Now, talking about the Cavaliers game a little more in depth, Wizards again with a 66-58 victory. Neither team had a big fourth quarter, but the key here is that the Cavaliers only scored 15 points in the second half, scoring 7 points in the third quarter, only 8 points in the fourth quarter. Meanwhile, the Wizards scored 16 in the third, only 9 in the fourth, so neither team even scored double digits in the fourth quarter, but that was enough for the Wizards to get a 66-58 victory, outscoring the Cavaliers 25-15 in the second half, and that basically is the difference in the game. The Wizards shooting 55% from the field, only 4 of 12 from deep. However, the Cavaliers only shot 39% from the field and 8 of 21, so they were slightly better. They took 9 more three-pointers, but they were 38% from the three-point land. And in this game, as opposed to the game back in October, the Wizards did not exactly get killed. Well, they did get killed, but not as badly, as the Cavaliers again had 14 offensive rebounds. Jared Allen was again a menace on the glass, but it was not the difference in the game the way it was back in the October matchup that the Cavaliers won in Cleveland by a large margin. The Kings game was a little bit different in that the Wizards shot 49% from the field. The Kings shot 42% from the field, but the Wizards had the advantage from deep, going 7 out of 18 versus 7 out of 29 for the Kings. The Kings did not even quite hit a quarter of their deep shots, going 7 for 29, 24%. Wizards were 7 out of 18 for 39% to get a 77-70 victory over the Kings. And this one did not have that stark difference that the Wizards and Cavaliers game did, as both teams did not really struggle with scoring in any quarter. And again, it was just a 7-point victory for the Wizards. Now, you may recall back in December, the Wizards went on a 6-game road trip out west, and that road trip was concluded with a game against the Kings, in which they lost to the Kings in Sacramento 88-80. So the Wizards were able to turn the tables here. Taking a quick look at the standings right now as we're getting closer to the playoffs, the Wizards have clinched a playoff berth, not just the play-in, but they play a playoff berth, and right now are the number 1 seed in the East. Have not locked that down yet, but are the number 1 seed in the East at 56-15. The next 3 teams, the 76ers, the Atlanta Hawks, and the Cavaliers. Keep in mind the Hawks do have a 2-1 series advantage, a regular season series advantage over the Wizards, and the two teams will meet one more time. I believe that will be on April 6th when the two teams meet for the final time this season. Hawks with a 2-1 series lead. But right now, the 76ers, Hawks, and Cavaliers positions 2, 3, and 4 in the East do have clinched play-in berths so far. So they will probably go ahead and clinch playoff berths. But your top 6 in the East right now: Wizards, 76ers, Hawks, Cavaliers, Heat, and Bulls. One final note here: the Boston Celtics, as we've talked about them a little bit throughout the season, and the Wizards do have one more game left with them, because Jayson Tatum had gotten injured, an Achilles injury, early in the season, and was immediately called out for the rest of the season. However, he did come back early, I guess. I mean, Bradley Beal got hurt for the Wizards, and he came back from a 6 to 8 week diagnosis in like 4 weeks. So Tatum came back early, and the Celtics were out of the play-in when Tatum came back. The Celtics have put together some wins and right now are holding the 8th place in the East. And now with a fully healthy team, Robert Williams is is injured, but he's about to come back. So the Celtics could be making some noise from the bottom of the playoff bracket. We'll see. But right now they are the 8th seed and probably have some more climbing to do before the season is over. The Celtics have 11 games left, as do the Wizards right now. Out west, slightly different story as the standings are a little bit more compressed. The Clippers are 47-24. They are the only team that's clinched anything out west. They have clinched a play-in berth. Right now, they are the number 1 seed, but the Memphis Grizzlies are only a game and a half back at 45-25. The Mavericks are 3rd, and the Nuggets are the 4th seed. And we will be seeing those Denver Nuggets on Wednesday, 2 days from now. So you want to check that out. The Nuggets, ironically, just like the Kings, beat us 88-80 in Denver, and they were the start of that 6-game road trip that we took back in December. So we'll see if we can defeat the Nuggets in DC. Your top 6 right now out west: Clippers, Grizzly, Mavericks, Nuggets, Timberwolves, and Lakers. And this is probably a good opportunity to mention right here that obviously our simulation is different than the actual NBA. We are simulating the full 82-game schedule, mirroring the Washington Wizards through our NBA 2K23 player build, Jaymont Summerz, My NBA Mode, and of course, the Modern Era. And you can check us out on our YouTube channel, Season Long Baller. And again, some of the differences, like the Jayson Tatum injury, Bradley Beal got hurt earlier for our Wizards. And that is, of course, the biggest difference. But Jaymont Summerz, our player build, does start at the point guard position for the Wizards and is the leading Rookie of the Year candidate. Now, taking a quick look at those Wizards, the statistics here, just quickly looking at what we've done this season. So far, Bradley Beal does lead the team in minutes played at 17.2 minutes a game. Summerz is the leading scorer, our player build, at 17.1 points per game, and that is good for 2nd in the league in scoring behind Luka Doncic of the Mavericks. The leading rebounder for the Wizards is Kristaps Porzingis, averaging 6.4 rebounds a game. That is good for 3rd in the league. Keep in mind, we do play 6-minute quarters on Season Long Baller, so a lot of these stats will be compressed. You won't see double-digit rebounds averages in most cases because we only play these 6-minute quarters. The Wizards are led by Jaymont Summerz in assists, averaging just a shade under 5 a game. He's averaging 4.9 assists a game. Porzingis, the leading candidate right now for Defensive Player of the Year, is averaging 2.2 blocks a game, and that is leading the league in blocks. Bradley Beal is the leader in plus minus at 6.6 in the plus minus. That is actually the best in the league, and he is followed by Jaymont Summerz. When we're on the floor, we are a plus 6.4. So we're really doing good when we've got Summerz and Beal on the floor at the same time, especially. Right now, it's time for the Jaymont Summerz Play of the Week. And believe it or not, we haven't mentioned it a lot, but believe it or not, we do have the unlimited range badge, limitless range badge. And it has not come into effect or into play in a lot of the games during the season. But this week, our play of the Jaymont Summerz Play of the Week, it did come into effect.
Kuzma kicks it over to Beal, who's working on Cunningham. Summerz will take the super deep 3 and hits. Wow. Good start for Summerz with the deep 3.
Limitless range in effect, Summerz from deep, and that was your Jaymont Summerz Play of the Week. Now, taking a look at next week, we've got the Orlando Magic in Orlando tomorrow. And keep in mind, last time we played the Magic, we did lose to them in Orlando. That is followed up on Wednesday by the aforementioned Denver Nuggets. We'll see if we can get a bit of revenge for the loss back in December. Then 2 days later on Friday, we will take on the San Antonio Spurs. That was probably the biggest victory of the season. We defeated the Spurs 106-63 on January 30th in San Antonio. The Spurs, of course, are not playing well this season in our simulation, and of course are not in playoff position in the real NBA either, of course. So we will see if the Spurs can turn the table on the Wizards and get a victory in DC. And finally, next Sunday, we will be taking on the Toronto Raptors in Toronto. We did play a home back-to-back series with the Raptors, ended up splitting those games with the Raptors back in the early part of this month on the 2nd and the 4th. And the first one On the second was a 59-55 victory for the Raptors, where Jaymont Summerz missed a three at the end that could have tied that game or put the Wizards in front. And then on the fourth, blew the Raptors out 81-44. But both of those games were in Washington. So we will see what happens on Sunday in Toronto if the Wizards can defeat the Raptors, as the season series is 1-1. That's going to do it for Season Long Podcast number 20. Thank you very much for joining us, and thank you very much for listening. As always, it is much appreciated. Hope you have a great rest of your day. See you tomorrow when we take on the Orlando Magic in Orlando on the YouTube channel Season Long Baller. That's it for Season Long Baller. Peace.